Boy, squirrel hunting talk of the day, 7 January, 11 o'clock. It's cold here, boys. Wind will cut you in half out here. Okay, we're going to talk a little more here about squirrel hunting. The old squirrel head. You know, I measured a few squirrel heads the other day. It's good to know what the average size of a squirrel's head is. Why is that? Because you can use that for your hold-off. And I do that a whole lot with an HM2 rifle. Okay. When you have wind that will just move cigarette smoke, crosswind, and you're shooting a squirrel out there at 70 to 85 yards, which I've done several times, I will hold the edge of the head with that crosshair and that scope. Now, not all squirrel heads are equal sized, okay, but it's a pretty safe bet. Now, the fur, when you're looking at one, you got to be careful because, the little fur protrudes and the fur is not going to really do you much good. A gray squirrel, safe bet. You're looking at about a 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 inch area, okay. Maybe a little more than that. Now, a fox squirrel will be a little bigger, all right? So you can use that for your, what we call Kentucky windage. You don't have to dial no scope. It'll give you an idea of where you're holding on the squirrel, a gray squirrel. Now, I've been hunting with a 17 HM2 now for some years. Some people may say, oh, that sharpshooter don't know shit about 22 long rifles. Well, I've hunted squirrels with more with one of them than I have a 17 HM2. So this hold off, based on the size of the squirrel, it can help you with a 22 long rifle as well. Also, it can help you in your vertical. Okay? So I could shoot a squirrel with my current setup on my HM2. I can put the crosshair flush with the top of that head at 100 yards. That squirrel's probably coming out of that tree in a windless situation. Center of the head, crosshairs flush with the top of that head, touch that trigger, and he'll come out with a headshot. Now, what I'm going to say here next applies to really any rifle you would hunt squirrels with, even an air rifle. It can be windy, the wind can be varying, and depending on what you're using, it may be more wind resilience when it comes to wind drift. Air rifles would generally drift a little more than a 22 long rifle. 22 long rifle and 17 HM2 are about equals. The 17 HMR is a little better. So what you do when you're shooting a longer shot, maybe you're questioning the wind. You're like, what am I going to do here? What I recommend you do, if you can, is allow the squirrel to get in a position where you don't give the shot away. Meaning you could get more wind drift effects and still make a kill. When you're looking at the head of that squirrel, it really does matter which end the nose is on and which end the neck is on, okay, connected to the head. So you have to visualize like, okay, I may get a little more wind drift here than I would like. Okay, well, if the squirrel is in position where his head is here and his body is back on the other part of my hand and you have left to right wind, you see what you can do there, right? Squirrels laying up and down vertical on tree trunks. Those are the ones you got to really be careful with, okay? So you might not want to shoot a squirrel in that kind of position at longer distance with wind blowing with any rifle. Of course, there's always that chance you won't see that squirrel again, or maybe he doesn't get up on a limb horizontal. That's how you want to shoot that squirrel when it's windy if you can, okay? And let the squirrel shape add to your miss factor, all right? And yet you get to kill the squirrel. So you're just basically putting the laws of averages on your side, okay? And you don't have to have a perfect hold for wind. It's called cheating, but there's nothing wrong with it. I do it all the time. Just remember, when he's up there vertical, whichever side that head is connected, left or right versus the wind, you got to play into that. All that plays in. And you can figure with a 22 long rifle, I'll just throw this out there for you in case you don't know, a 17 HM2 and a 22 long rifle, you can expect about a 1-inch drift. 3/4 to 1-inch drift shooting 50 to 75 yards with a mere 2 to 3 mile an hour crosswind. So if you could see cigarette smoke moving, drifting, not steadily moving, but drifting, well, that's when I really like to hunt and make them long shots. That's when you'll see me holding on the edge of that head out there at 75 and 80 yards with that HM2. But I use cigarette smoke a lot of times as my guide. Smoking's bad for you, though. That's going to conclude the squirrel hunting talk of the day.